Well, as I had mentioned in one of my posts, probably one of the last ones, I said that I'd probably do a video on how I really feel about this NCEM MK reunion thing. Now, I don't know how this is going to go. I'm just going to sort of wing it. Might have to take 2 or 3 tries at it. In other words, there might be a part 2, a part 3. I want to be very careful what I say. I don't want to later on be, looking at the video and thinking, well, I really didn't mean that. Or that didn't come across the way I actually felt. I'm probably going to have to tell some stories here to so that you will understand how I feel about it. When I first heard about it, this is what I thought. Well, if they have it in Winnipeg, I might go. Or if it's across the street, I'd go. And then I thought, well, my goodness, I hope it's not across the street, because then people are going to come over here to visit me, and they're going to see crazy things like this model table set up right in the middle of the living room, and an air hose running across the wall, and stuff like that. And I don't know if I want people to see that. Well, now I guess I don't care, because I've told you it's here. But anyway, as it turns out, it's not going to be in Winnipeg, and that's fine. That it's going to be in Red Deer, and the idea was that it was going to be there at the same time as a music fest type thing that's going on. And I googled that, and I got a little bit excited at first. I thought, yeah, I kind of like that kind of music. It might be kind of nice to get there 3 or 4 days early and then enjoy that. And then I thought, well, then I've got to drive all the way out there, and I'm getting to the place now where just driving to the store is stressful. Well, not really, but bottom line is I probably won't be going. But why? What? How do I feel about it? Okay. Do you remember way back in the 70s, there was this guy, he went way down to South America, and he started this town, I think it was called Jonestown, and it was a religious-based thing that had a lot of craziness woven into it. I kind of feel that, in a sense, we were like that. The only difference is we didn't drink the Kool-Aid. Now, I've recently heard it wasn't Kool-Aid, it was something else. But we didn't drink the poison, I know that. But we had crazy ideas. And to me, as an MK, I was embarrassed by some of the silliness that our parents, adhered to while they played missionary. That's what they're doing. They were playing missionary. And I know you think of a missionary as a good thing, but, well, it is and it isn't. It's good to be helpful, but you have to, don't be helpful for weird reasons. And we had a lot of crazy things that we had imposed upon us as MKs for the sake of the work. And you had to be good in school because it would reflect on the work. There was pressure on us. That wasn't a good thing. For me personally, I was about 3 years old when my mom and dad decided they wanted to be missionaries. So they had to go to Bible school. Okay, so off they go to Bible school, and what did they do with their kid? They leave him on the farm with their parents, which were my grandparents. There was no other kids there. I was all by myself with my grandparents. Now, nothing bad happened. They were kind, loving grandparents, doing the best they could under the circumstances. But for 3 impressionable years of my life, I was there was nobody else around. Then we moved up to Buffalo Narrows, and we lived in a cold, drafty house. I came down with pneumonia, almost died apparently. Silly, needless things that our parents thought they had to do for the sake of the work. Do I really want to go to a reunion and remember all of that? I don't think so. We should have T-shirts that say something instead of Greyhound. It should say, "I survived being an NCEM MK." Now, what did the townspeople who lived in Meadow Lake during the 50s and early 60s actually think of us? And I'm not talking about the religious base, which back in the 50s and 60s, everybody had some sort of form. Well, that's not true. I would say probably 50% of the population had some sort of superstition going on, and some more than others. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the normal, ordinary people. The people that got up in the morning, went to work, came home at night, raised a family, did the best they could, and kept the town going. What did they really think of us? Well, one time I went with my dad to the town office, and the idea was, I think they wanted to get a permit to build, if I'm not mistaken, it was what we called the Quonset, right in the middle of the compound there. Remember that dome-shaped thing? And they wanted to get a permit for that, and Dad and somebody else went down there, and I went along. So this must have been in the summer holidays, and we went into the office. It wasn't a big office. It was right in the middle of town at that time, very close to where the water tower is. I remember that. I remember the man behind the counter. I believe there was 2, but I remember one for sure. I can even remember his name. His name was Mr. Logan. And Mr. Logan spoke with a very distinct British English, like from England type accent. I can still sort of see him. In my mind's eye, I picture somebody with a big head like Jay Leno. Sorry, Jay. And I believe he had lots of hair, He was I remember a big man, but maybe because I was pretty young, everybody was big to me. Mind you, at that time I was pretty big myself for a 15, 14-year-old or whatever I happened to be. Anyway, I remember he got the some sort of plans out for that area of the town, and as he was musing through it, he made the remark that went something like this: "Well, there's already a lot of ramshackle buildings down there already." Now that was back when you didn't have to be politically correct like you do today. Today, somebody in office would not, make a remark like that they could be called on the carpet for later. Now, I don't think he meant to be talked down, but it came across that way. And I can still remember Dad kind of bristling a little bit, but he didn't dare say anything. But when he got back in the car, he sure said plenty to the other person that was with him. And I can't remember who the other person was now, but I do remember we were not revered the way we thought we were. uh, I think we were looked on as, uh, I don't know, maybe a little bit Jonestowny. I'm sort of doing this in segments as stuff comes to me. And recently I was speaking to somebody who was also an NCEM MK. And it made me feel kind of, well, not really good, but it sort of, well, I guess it did make me feel good that I'm not the only MK that has maybe wasn't too happy about the way things went. Yeah, I think I'm not alone. I think that there's probably a lot of us. Right now on this Facebook group, there's 25 members? And I'm estimating there was at least 250 or more of us throughout the 50s and 60s. Yeah, at least that many. I got a feeling that there's probably a lot of people that have grown up now and they're adults, older adults, and they don't look back on it with fond memories, but they don't want to say anything. They maybe they're afraid that if they say something, somehow some bad karma or something's going to happen to them. Well, for goodness sakes, say something. You know, do you remember? I think it was the 70s or the 80s, there was that comedy show. It was the Bob Newhart show. And I'm sure that probably all of you saw it because by that time we had lost the silliness about televisions were sinful and we couldn't have one, and by then we probably all had them, so you probably saw the show. And anyway, one of the skits that they almost had in every episode was the group, and because it was a comedy show, the people in this group, Bob Newhart, he was a psychologist, right? And so he had the group, and it was group therapy. And because it was a comedy, somebody in the group would say something funny and, everybody'd get a laugh out of it. I don't know if that kind of show could be happen today, but maybe it could. Anyway, I kind of feel if we get together there in Red Deer, we're going to be maybe sitting around in a circle, sort of saying things like, "Hi, I'm Ron. I'm a survivor of NCEM MK." It's just another thought I had. Maybe it won't happen that way. I just do not feel good about the way things went when I was a kid. Now, it could be that other kids had no problem. But I think a lot of us did. And I got to admit, I was one of them. There's more. It'll come to me, and I'll share it with you. I think this is probably going to be the last segment in this part 4. There may not even be a part 5 because I might get kicked out of the group because I know that the people that are running the group probably don't feel the same way I do. But once again, I do believe that there's a lot of us who do. And I was sort of indicating earlier, we'd be all sitting around in a group in Red Deer, trying to console each other, but that may not be the case. As I said, there's a lot of people that probably don't feel the same way I do. If you're the type of person who is constantly copy-pasting religious cliches into your Facebook homepage, you're probably going to have a good time there. You're still, in a sense, as far as I'm concerned, you're still sipping at the poison. You haven't seen it for what it really was. And mind you, there was a lot of good. And I'll try and remember to talk about that in part 5, if I'm allowed. There was a lot of good that went on. But it was based on superstition. Yeah, it was just, bottom line is, it was superstition. But because it was religious, because it involved God and angels and all that kind of stuff, we called it religion. But it was superstition. Maybe I'll talk about that in part 5. In the meantime, this has gone on longer than I thought. The last segment I just edited out, and I listened to myself ranting, and I'm thinking, my goodness, Ron. Anyway, thanks for listening. And for those of you who are my regular viewers, and there's a lot of them, right now I'm building a model ship on YouTube, and a lot of the people that are watching me build this model ship, they're also listening to this rant. And they're thinking, what's he talking about? What is an NCEM? What is an MK? Well, if you don't know, don't worry about it. It doesn't affect you. You were one of the lucky ones. Maybe that's not 100% true either. Anyway, thanks for listening. Feel free to comment, whether you're a regular viewer or if you're in this Facebook group that this rant is actually intended for. Yeah, feel free to comment. Maybe you should do the NCEM people, the MKs, maybe you should do your commenting in the Facebook page, not in the YouTube comments. But it doesn't really matter. If anybody gets really nasty, I'll just delete it. Anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in part 5. Fingers crossed.